Welcome to Evolve and Repeat. My name is Aubrey Conley, and I promise to only speak about the things that I've walked through, the trials and triumphs within my own life, and how I found the silver lining and would like to share them with you. Today I want to talk about being a mom of a child that has a chronic illness. Something I watched last night, there's a YouTube video going around that was published in 2018 titled Sick Kid versus Strong Mom. And it spoke to me because it is the truth. Anyone who has a sick kid knows the struggle, knows the cries and the tears and the heartache of not being able to fix our baby. You can relate if you don't have a sick kid like that, but you can't possibly understand what it means to be put up against the wall time after time again. So I ask for those who have perfectly healthy kids, you are blessed. Be generous and kind to those dealing. Check in on those mamas. So the one thing that we struggled with was label. My daughter has an immune deficiency disease that she was diagnosed with over a year ago. She struggled her whole life from 12 days old, very sick baby, all the way through until she finally was tested and she doesn't have the antibodies she needs to fight for her through infection. So my daughter would have bronchial infections, pneumonia, sinus infections, often. She often, too many times, went into respiratory distress. It's been a scary road. We got really, really close at times. And unless you saw it and were in it, people didn't quite understand because Ava looks so healthy all the time and she was so vibrant. But this past year has truly been the most vibrant and healthy she's ever been. So when it comes to labels, it's a really hard thing for kids, especially, I feel. My daughter asked me, she stopped asking me now, but about a year and a half ago, she would say, "Am I sick today?" Because she constantly has to do meds. And I said, "No, honey, you're not sick." And in that moment, I watched her in her head think about my answer because this labeling of primary immune deficiency disease has been going around and she hates the last part of that word disease. So I watched her think and I realized in that moment that Ava had somewhat taken on the mindset of being a sick kid. And yes, she was a sick kid her whole life, but we never said like, "Oh, well, you're a sick kid." And we never labeled her. We just kept trucking along and moving and grooving and living her best life. We had many struggles with her health, but she always pushed through. And when I saw her wheel spinning in that moment, what I said to her was, "Ava, you are healthy, strong, and beautiful from the inside of your core to the outside." And I asked her, I pulled her in front of the mirror and I asked her to repeat that line. And she did. She looks herself in the eyes and says, "I am healthy, strong, and beautiful from the inside out, Mama." So when Ava wakes up in the morning, if she's ever having a kind of like an off day, she remembers that and she stands in her mirror and gives herself those mantras and says, "I am healthy, strong, and beautiful from the inside out." And by putting those words into the universe, by her saying them, they are changing her thoughts and feelings and creating positive action. The universe is working in her favor. It's working in all of our favor. So it's interesting how the law of attraction works. In the past, I read the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. I absolutely recommend that book. It was recommended to me by a dear friend. I encourage everyone to read that book. Every word, I believe, is pure truth in that book. It's not just what we sow, we reap, what you give, we get. There's so much more in detail to be discovered. And my husband and I like to listen to our books on Audible. And then I'll go back and read them again, maybe 6 months later, and it just speaks differently to me. So it's just a reminder of how our thoughts and our feelings you can control your own destiny. We all know people who go right to the negative or play victim, or oh, worries me is kind of their automatic response. And it can be really hard to break that overnight, especially if in a child. And giving them that positive affirmation to change that negative mindset, to shift it to positive. If we practice it as their parents, as their guardians and their role models, then they'll practice it. And they'll focus on finding a positive silver lining to every situation, because I believe there is always a silver lining. My daughter has to do weekly plasma infusions. So for the first year, she would, by herself, she stuck herself with 2 needles, and she would sit through a plasma infusion every 7th day. We finally, recently this past summer, have moved into every 2 weeks, which is fantastic for mental health, her especially, and me being the caregiver. It's very stressful on us moms, dads, caregivers, whoever it is, to deal with someone who has this. It is so hard to watch them do this and prep their medicine. And so I feel you mamas out there who are in it. So my daughter in the beginning would have a complete and epic meltdown at times, from lip quivering to just pure gut-wrenching sadness. Tears would pour down her face. She doesn't want to do this anymore. And unfortunately, her receiving plasma is what has saved her life. So that's something, it's an absolute necessity. Having to be strong always is hard. And having to tell her that she's strong always is hard for her. So we have changed our conversation. You don't have to be strong today, Ava. It does suck. Infusions suck. This sickness sucks. And I let her say it because it does, and it's okay. And I feel if we let these kids know they don't have to be strong, that then they don't have to put on this show for everyone. Sometimes they don't want to be strong. Sometimes I don't want to be strong. I think that's important. Just an important concept for life all around, not just dealing with people who have chronic illnesses or kids. So we continue to embrace this process of having a child with a chronic illness as a family with gratitude. Because if it wasn't for plasma donations, my daughter wouldn't have the answer to give her body what it needs. And that's important. So I'm grateful, because every time that my daughter receives her plasma infusions, I think there are so many angels in these bottles that are sent to me that have done a selfless act by donating plasma. And that's amazing. Everyone has times in their lives where they're going through stuff, whether it's sadness, stress, sickness, confliction, frustration, or grief. And I'm learning that the best way to deal with these times in our life is to send love and to find gratitude. Even when you feel there's no way, I'm not grateful about any of this. Keeping that positive mindset through tough times could be your saving grace that day. It keeps my heart lit up, my feelings happy, and my thoughts joyful. Because every day, life goes on and it's going to continue forward. There are no pauses. We can't go back. And I want to enjoy all the little moments, even the tough ones. And I want to teach my children how to enjoy them too. So embracing the goodness and trying to find the silver lining in things is something that I've taught my children to do, even my daughter who has a chronic illness. There's a silver lining to it all. No, we don't ask for these things, but God gives us these things to show that mountains can be climbed and to bring awareness, to help each other to talk about our silent struggles. So please drop a like, please subscribe, click the bell for notifications so we can continue on this journey together. If you have any questions or comments, put them down. If you don't like what I'm saying, change the channel. You have the option. Have a beautiful day.